Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is Tanisha Graham. I'm the director of the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Women's Empowerment Center. Tonight, we are going to discuss summer youth employment for individuals who are interested in applying for this for their youth. I believe the ages for this is 14 to 24 years of age, but if I'm incorrect, Ms. Lindsay Poulis will let me know if I'm incorrect. So just to give you guys a recap, we did our first discussion on fentanyl. Our second one was on gun violence, and this one is going to be on summer youth employment. We provide these caregiver discussions on a monthly basis to talk about topics that are important for you and based on the feedback that I've received from you on in your interest and what your needs are. So without further ado, I am going to introduce again Ms. Lindsay Poulis of Capital Workforce Partners, and she's going to talk to you about summer youth employment. Okay, Lindsay.
Thanks, Tanisha, and hi, everyone. Again, my name is Lindsay Poulis. I'm the Youth Employment Coordinator at Capital Workforce Partners, and we are gearing up to launch our summer youth employment program. Our application is now live. It is open until May 28th, and the program runs from the beginning of July until the end of August. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen and show you our fact sheet to give you a little bit more information. So our summer program, really the goal is to provide our participants with paid summer jobs and learning experiences with the opportunity to also have special life skills training, such as soft skills and leadership development. The eligibility for our participants is age 14 to 21 for the North Central region of Connecticut. For Hartford residents, that eligibility is age 14 to 24. For CRT, if you're particularly interested in working with them, they are one of our 10 providers. CRT does Tier 1 project-based learning, and that's for ages 14 to 15. So you'll see here, we have our tier system. Tier 1 is project-based learning. This is through our providers where youth can do group-based activities that are centered around community improvement and leadership development. Tier 2 is sort of a hybrid between Tier 1 and Tier 3. It is youth's first job experience typically, and it's entry-level work experience. So youth will have more hands-on support with their provider team, but still have that actual work experience. And Tier 3 are for our youth who do have work experience and are ready for the more autonomous type of role and being placed in a traditional work site. And you can see some of the breakdowns of that. Tier 1 is ages 14 to 15, it's $12 an hour. Tier 2 is ages 15 to 17, that's $13 an hour. And Tier 3 is ages 16 and up, and that's $14 an hour. So again, the program runs July and August. Youth can get paid up to 120 hours of work, and the deadline is May 28th. If you have any questions about the program, please feel free to reach out. You can email me, you can call me, you can text me. Any way that's easy for you to communicate, please feel free. And that is the program in a nutshell. We are actively recruiting youth for this program. Whether youth are in school or out of school, they are eligible for the program, so do keep that in mind. Hartford residents and youth who attend Hartford Public Schools do not need to submit income requirements because the Hartford School District has youth on a free lunch program. So in terms of paperwork, that's one less document you have to submit, and income is not necessarily a constraint in being involved in the program. So that is the Summer Youth Employment Learning Program in a nutshell.
Lindsay, can you explain about the application process? So I saw that there was a QR code on your document. So can you explain to us a little bit more about the application process and how that goes?
So what I would recommend doing is going right to our Capital Workforce Partners website. And here you'll see some instructions for how to apply. So what I would recommend doing is if you have any kiddos who are older than 14 or 15, I would recommend reviewing the provider list. And you can see here, this has all the information you'll need to know which provider to pick. So we have 4 providers in the Hartford area, CRT being one of them, who serves ages 14 to 15, Center for Latino Progress, Blue Hills, and Our Piece of the Pie all serve ages 14 to 21 for Hartford residents up to age 24. We do have also our regional providers as well, so you can keep those in mind. So I would really recommend reviewing the provider list before opening up the application and reviewing the video guides. So once you complete those steps, what I would recommend doing is then going to the application. Did you have a question, Tanisha?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so if you change the screen, we weren't able to see it.
Oh,
With the provider list, sorry.
no, that's okay. Let me go back. Let's see.
And while you're doing that, how long does the process take? So say I, as a parent, go onto the Capital Workforce website, sign my children up for a summer job. How long does the actual process take from the time you guys receive it until the time they're placed?
To expedite the process, what I would recommend doing is making sure that all the verification documents are uploaded before submitting. You can submit the application before having your documents uploaded, but your application will be marked as incomplete. So do keep that in mind. The process typically takes, it depends on the provider, but intake typically happens in the springtime. So the process is your application is submitted, the providers review the application to ensure eligibility and that it is complete. And then once that's verified, providers will reach out to the youth to schedule an intake. And right now, it's still pretty early, but I know that, you know, some providers are starting intakes. We do have a year-round program going on at the same time. So we do have providers having youth in that year-round program. But that should happen around the spring, and youth will be placed in their work sites or their tier 1 projects by the program start of July 1st. So I would say typically an intake would be a one-time appointment, but the range of when the intake might happen is contingent on the provider, when the application is submitted, and if all the documents are uploaded. So in terms of when to expect to hear from a provider after submitting an application, you know, it could be the next day, it could take a few weeks, but youth who apply, who are deemed eligible, as long as they get their application and before the deadline, will be contacted. The slots for the program, unfortunately, are limited because our funding is limited, so we can't guarantee a placement. So we highly encourage people to apply as soon as they're able to.
I think that has never changed. I think spots were always limited, even from when I was a kid and took advantage of the summer youth employment program. So you said that one of the programs was a year-round program. Which program is that? Or which provider is doing that?
So this is actually kind of a one-off sort of thing that's happening because of COVID. And last year's summer youth employment dollars, there was a remaining amount after. And so they decided to do a year-round program to supplement spending down that money. So I don't know if that's something that's going to happen next year or not.
Okay.
But for this year, if say, you know, we're looking at, it's March 31st right now, say youth wants to start working while they're still in school, or maybe they're not in school and they want to get a job as soon as possible, they could be eligible for that year-round program. I could pull it up in my email to let you know what providers are still doing it. There are a few providers who are still doing the year-round program. So just for context, here again is the document that I was talking about before when I wasn't on the right page. You'll see Blue Hills Civic Association. They're also known as Building Hartford through Community Action, but BHCA will bring up their information if you're looking for them. We have Our Piece of the Pie, also known as OPP, Center for Latino Progress, also known as CLP, and Community Renewal Team, also known as CRT. And so for the providers doing year-round programming, I'm just going to pull up that email real quick, so bear with me.
Okay. This is awesome. I remember when I used to accept youth when I used to work for Mercy Housing and Shelter, I would go over to our piece of the pie and interview down in the I think it was their lower level, but I would interview, there would be thousands of students. Well, it seemed like it was thousands of students there interviewing for employment. It was just really great to see so many youth trying to build their skills.
That's awesome.
Right.
So for the providers who are still doing the year-round youth employment, that is BHCA,
Mhm.
HRA, and CLP. So BHCA is Building Hartford for Community Action, otherwise known as Blue Hills Civic Association. CLP is Center for Latino Progress, and HRA is one of our New Britain providers.
Okay.
BHCA and Center for Latino Progress are two of our Hartford providers. So there's a New Britain provider still doing it and two Hartford providers. It does
Oh,
look
okay.
like there's not too many slots left in New Britain. So, you know, depending on timing, they may not still be open. There's about 20 slots left. So
Mhm.
take that for what you will, but it is New Britain. And my guess is that this will probably reach mostly Hartford caregivers. So, but just
Right.
keep that in mind.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
So back to the other thing you said that folks had to upload their documentation. What kind of documentation is needed for applying for a summer job?
Sure. So I can pull up the application. Any documentation that's going to verify school status, residence, and age, and work eligibility in the US. So one document could serve to prove verification for multiple types of identities that we're trying to verify, right?
Okay.
Your school transcript could serve to verify both your address and your school status. Again, school status is not a contingency of the program. In fact, we are actively trying to recruit out of school youth who are not currently working. So if you have any kiddos who may or may not be in or out of school and not currently working, please do keep our program in mind. Let me pull up the application so you can see what it looks like.
Okay.
So, oh, I can see the first part of it. So I'll show this. So before you start, it'll do an eligibility check. So it will ask, how old will you be on July 1st? So how old will you be on July 1st, 2022? And as long as you turn 14 by July 1st, 2022, they're eligible for the program. Then it'll ask, are you legally allowed to work in the US? We ask if youth are foster care or DCF because we have specific funding for that. And DCF youth are considered a high priority. And then town of residence to ensure that you're within the north central region of Connecticut. And then it'll prompt you to the actual application. When you do go to, it's called Web Author. When you do go to it, it'll ask you to create an account. Do make sure that if you are using the youth's email, that it's not their school email, because the firewalls that school emails have are really, really strong. So just make sure it's a Gmail or Yahoo or something, some kind of personal email address. And I'm just going to pull up, see if I can pull up a fake application real quick.
That is so true about the school emails. Nothing really gets through if it isn't a part of the school's website. So a parent should use their own email versus using or a caregiver should use their own email versus using their child's email, their youth's email.
It's up to the family what they want to do.
Okay.
I would just as long as it's not a school email address, it'll be fine. You know, we have youth who are applying and doing lists themselves. We have a lot of caregivers who are helping their youth with it. So either or is fine. Let me go to, so I can pull it up as long as I can make sure I can hide the record number. 1 second. I'm just going to copy and paste this. I'm just not allowed to
Sure.
share, live data.
Right.
I can't pull up a fake application. I think we might have deleted them, but I'm going to just paste this in a Word document. Okay. So this is the documentation that we require.
Okay.
School status documentation. Sorry, it's a little wonky. Let me zoom this in. School status documentation. So this could be a school transcript. Age documentation. So again, this could be a school transcript. This could be a birth certificate. Town documentation, work eligibility documentation, or income documentation. Typically for Hertford caregivers, you won't have to worry about this, or if you have youth who go to the Hertford school system, you won't have to worry about this. But for anyone who may be regional, I know that most school districts, due to COVID, right now, they're on a free lunch program, which would also make you eligible. But do keep in mind that these are the 5 different types of eligibility documentation that we require. But again, when you go to the application, it'll have a place to upload for each section. So it'll have a place to upload for school status documentation. It'll have a place to upload for age documentation. You do have to upload something for every section, but you can upload the same document more than once. So again, school transcript, you could put that for age, town documentation, school status. There's multiple points that could be used. So that's
So what if I have a parent that or a caregiver who isn't technologically savvy and may not know how to upload the documentation or have the access to be able to upload the documentation? Is there some place where he or she could submit a paper application?
Yes, I do believe so, actually. If they wanted to go to one of the provider locations to submit an application, I believe that that's possible. And, say, youth or a caregiver wanted to go in, I believe they do have the support for that. I would recommend calling first, though, just to set an appointment because, our case managers are often quite booked up. So to make sure that you can speak to someone that day, I would recommend calling one of the providers that you're interested in and asking for support with submitting that application.
And another question that comes up is, what if they have youth who has some behavioral challenges? How are you guys? Are there any children who you wouldn't work with, or is it up to the provider to decide?
So in terms of eligibility, there are certain high priority service areas, right? Like DCF youth is one, low income youth is another. Youth who may have, behavioral challenges or any other sort of challenges aren't a disqualifier for the program. We would never discriminate against youth for, any sort of challenge they might have. In terms of eligibility versus suitability for a program, right? Like youth who are in a 4-year college who already have a part-time job, that's a great example of someone who's not suitable for the program, or a youth who needs a significantly higher level of care beyond what would be in the same, how would I say, in the same circumstances any other sort of work site, right? So the ADA has, certain rights prescribed to people who have disabilities, and if a youth has a disability and needs a reasonable accommodation, they have just as many rights as anybody else does. Or if, say, a youth needs a job coach, that's something that we cannot provide. We don't have the capacity or the resources to provide hands-on support to youth. But if a youth, say, does need a job coach, that's at the discretion of the provider to find a placement for that youth that makes sense. So in terms of, an employer who who has the capacity to support youth who may need more hands-on support. So that's essentially at the discretion of the provider to place that youth in an appropriate worksite placement.
Okay, that's all really good information to know. So,
and I will say too that youth who have disabilities are considered high priority for being placed in the program. So that's definitely, if anything, it's the opposite of, will this hurt their chances? If anything, these are the youth who we're trying to serve.
That's great to know, that you guys have some targeted populations that you're trying to help. It makes a difference in our community to have our kids working, learning the skills, learning financial literacy and all of that stuff when once they become employed. Just being able to have that independence of having their own job, right? And not having to, well, you still have to depend on your parents, but it just makes life a lot easier for things that you really want to purchase that your parents may not necessarily be able to purchase for you. Right. And then on top of it, the skills, the work experience that you're getting, even at 14 years old, being able to say, oh, I worked for CRT for the summer, looks good on college applications, future employment applications. So this is a win-win, not only for the youth that's a part of your summer youth program, but also a win for the community as well, because we're producing more positive citizens in our town. So I want to say thank you to Capital Workforce for continuing to do that. Like I said to you earlier, I was in the summer youth employment program. And matter of fact, I don't even think it was called summer youth at that point. I started working at 12. The program was called co-op. That's how long ago it was. And
that's awesome.
I remember doing that, and I've stayed doing that until I was able of majority age to be able to work independently. So I do want to say that the summer youth program is helpful for parents and caregivers alike to be able to, to help lighten the load a lot. So I want to say thank you for that piece from myself, all the other caregivers that are out there in the community, and those of us that have taken advantage of the summer youth program. As a Hartford resident, or just overall. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I'm not sure if there's anything else did we miss anything? Did you get?
I don't think so. I would I'll pull up the screen one more time just to show my contact information. Please do reach out if you have any questions regarding your application. I'll pull that up here. So you can email me, you can call me, text me. Emailing and texting will probably solicit the quickest response because I often am in a meeting, not always, but often enough to miss people's calls sometimes. So, but please do reach out any way that's most convenient for you. I'm always here to help. And that's about it.
All righty, thank you so much. So just so you guys give you a recap, we are going to be redoing this session possibly sometime in May. For those of you, this will also be posted on our website, so you're most likely watching this on our website too. So we will be doing this again sometime in May. Lindsay and I will sit down and discuss the time as it gets closer to, so that you guys can attend. Please feel free to forward this link once I upload the video, forward it to others who you think may be benefiting from this information that we're giving out tonight. And next month, we are going to have our caregiver discussion on autism. It's going to be, I believe, April 28th is the date that we're going to be doing it. So please join us and stay tuned for information for our discussion on autism. And you guys can have a great night.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.